Last year, I released a difficult game about climbing. One of the most hated games on the internet.
I grabbed it! No f***ing way!
Foddy, no!
Ah, success. If you haven't played it, it's a game about climbing.
So far, so easy, so breezy.
And it's pretty difficult.
What?
You use your mouse to pull yourself up an enormous mountain, and it was inspired by Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. On release, everybody was playing it, and they all hated it.
This game is dog shit.
I hate this game.
Dude, I think this is a bad game. Okay, I'm done.
But they kept playing it anyway, for some reason. Some people were stuck in this area for a long time.
What am I supposed to do here? Okay, I'm literally stuck.
Everyone was struggling, and I was relaxing.
The problem, though, is that the game is way too easy.
Oh, easy! Yes! Come on, man!
Far too many people completed the game and even said that it was easier than Bennett's game. So, I spent an entire year making a whole new level for the game. And this video documents the entire journey I suffered through to make it. It's a completely new adventure built from the ground up, and you can play it right now. And the dumbest part is that it's completely free for everybody who owns the game. So I don't want to hear any excuses. Now go play it if you dare. Initially, I was planning on just making a harder version of the original map as an additional challenge once you complete it. And it's probably going to take me about 2 weeks or so. Easy peasy, retirement squeezy. Except, just making the game harder with tougher jumps and longer falls is lazy and boring. And I don't think anyone is going to fall for that. Get it? Fall for that? No? Okay, so if we want to trick people into suffering through this game one more time, we're gonna have to do it right, with new challenges and new environments. Which might take a bit longer than 2 weeks, I think. Okay, so let's think about this. The way I designed the original game was with 7 unique zones, each with its own mechanic. The jungle has running water, which, if you touch it, pushes your hand down. Then, we introduce moving objects, and so on, to keep things interesting. A lot of people were stuck on this wheel for a long time.
Ooh! No!
So the idea for the new map would be to add at least 7 additional zones, each with its own unique feature. The problem is that I already used all my good ideas for the first map, so it isn't looking very good for our new map. But I did have a few ideas that I couldn't fit into the original game, so maybe we can start with those. The first one was to have wind zones. Pretty simple. You have wind which pushes the player in some direction, and which makes everything more difficult. It also makes it a lot more frustrating, and it's not very fun. So let's not do that. I tried turning gravity off, which was awful. And I also created this underwater level, which was even worse. I think we need to think about what this game is really about. And you might think it's a game about climbing, but it's actually a difficult game about surfaces. We have grippy rocks, slippy rocks, water, moving surfaces, and so on. And so we need to give the player something new and interesting to interact with, and not just take stuff from the original map and add things to make it harder. So, can you think of any new surfaces we could add to the game? Well, I have a couple of ideas myself. I started off with mud. It's like you can't really stop on it. You keep sliding down, but you can go up. But it's, I don't really know exactly myself how it works, and so it's probably not fair to ask players to understand it either. What if we had some sort of sticky goo instead, where you get stuck, but then how do you get unstuck? Yeah, good thinking, Ponty. I also played around with some falling pieces. It could be pretty cool. The problem is then we have to respawn them, which feels kind of weird. Everything else is persistent in the world. And it just feels kind of cheap and is probably going to piss people off. People are pretty sensitive, if you know what I mean. What if we had a surface which you can't touch? Like lava. I really like this, and it feels like a pretty obvious obstacle now that I see it, so we're definitely keeping that one. Another idea is to have directional friction. So it's grippy in one direction, but slippery in another direction. Unfortunately, Unity doesn't have that built in, but it should be pretty quick to make. Yeah, I somehow eventually got it working though, and it's pretty irritating, but I do think we can make some interesting obstacles out of this. People are not gonna like this. I think it's time to make our level. So for each area, I try to come up with as many obstacles as I can possibly think of. And then I'll pick my favorites and string them together into a sequence. And I'll often try and combine obstacles as well so that it's as dense as possible without being overwhelming. A huge problem with the original map was the cave, but not for the reason you might think. Yes, it was too difficult.
I can't grab it!
But the bigger problem was that it was a closed loop. Once a player got to this point, there was no way of falling back down to the rest of the map. It probably should have been a little easier, but allowed you to fall back down.
There's like 5 hard jumps.
So to prevent this from being a problem in this new map, I have come up with a strategy. If we think of our level as being separated into tiny little steps, at any given time, you have to be able to fall back at least 2 steps. By this logic, if you keep screwing up, you will be able to set yourself all the way back to the bottom, no matter where you are in the map. But we also want to prevent 2 big falls, and make sure that failure is incremental, which will make it feel more fair and justified to the player. At least that's the theory. Of course, we do want a couple of high-stakes moments here and there, but we want to make sure they're not too frequent. We also need to think about how to actually put this new level into the original game. So I want to find a way to integrate this so that it feels almost like it's part of the base game, you just didn't know about it. I really like how in Jump King you access the DLC map by just simply veering off to the left, right here in the middle of the map, which makes it feel like it was kind of always part of the game. So I want to take inspiration from that and hide the entrance somewhere in the original level. Now, I want it to be accessible by everyone, and I don't want to require the player to actually finish the base game first before they can access the map, so I'm gonna have to be a little creative here. Well, I don't want to spoil it for the 3 people who actually want to play this new map, but let's just say that I took some inspiration from this failed underwater level. The new map starts down in the sewers, so I experimented a lot with tight spaces and having to squeeze through. After you make your way out of the sewers, which might take you a while, you'll enter this desert, this sort of bright, saturated environment to really contrast the sewers. And in the end, I ended up making 9 new zones for the game, with completely unique environments and challenges. And as you can probably imagine, when I was actually prototyping all of this, I obviously didn't have any finished assets. So for example, the lava, as I was building it up, actually looked like this. Not very impressive, but it just doesn't make sense to spend a bunch of time creating assets if you don't know if it's gonna work in the game or not. And so once I had basically completed the entire level, I probably spent an additional 6 to 7 months just making all the assets and adding all the sound effects to the game. Like I always say, it takes time to make games, guys. I hope you guys will enjoy this new level. I actually really put a lot of effort into it, and while it is very difficult, I think it'll be very rewarding for especially players who don't know about it and who might just accidentally stumble on it after finishing the game the first time. So I think it was a great addition to the game, and I'm glad it's in there. But don't take my word for it. I'll just let Ludwig give his first impression instead.
Yep, we get on that one. F you, Ponty! Fucking piece of shit ass fucking YouTube dev. Fucking bullshit ass fucking game, bro.
I think he likes it. As for the future, I don't think I'll be making more updates to this game. There's still a couple of small things that I want to do, but nothing big like a new map or anything like that. I'm definitely looking forward to moving on to some new projects. I've entered a deep rabbit hole of programming lately, and so I'm probably going to be making some videos about that in the near future. But first, I think I'm going to be taking a bit of a vacation, think about life a little bit, and relax. And that's about it.
Alright, so you beat the old map. Big deal. The question is, can you beat this one?
Do you want to make a video game? Are we making video games? Are we making video games?